So I'll call the meeting to order. If you'll join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To join me in a moment of silence. I had a pastor coming, but he hadn't made it yet. So he just joined me in a moment of silence. Thank you. On our agenda, we have, if you got a copy of it, not there's some down on the corner, approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, and I don't know that we have those available, do we?
I've got them right here.
Do you have them?
Me to read them?
Yes.
They were sent to the board members.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we already had them open, so
Mhm.
I could not recall.
Absolutely.
All right.
We need a motion to approve.
You have
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the last
Okay.
meeting.
I'll second.
a motion, a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, so what everybody's here for is number 6, receive presentation from the Fair Foundation regarding the annexation of fair-owned property located adjacent to FM 849 and currently lies within the boundaries of the city of Hideaway. No action to be taken on this item during this meeting. It's information only, and we'll turn it over to the Fair Foundation. And whoever's speaking, Cassie and Bob, whatever.
Hideaway Lake Inc. is,
Hideaway Lake Inc.
yeah, the actual one. Foundation is nonprofit, so
Oh, Hideaway Lake Inc. We'll make a note on that. Thank you.
now did you want me to set in a different spot?
I think he was one.
To film it.
Yeah, if you want to come down here so he can get you on film, I'll move the chair over.
Okay.
Hang on, scoot around.
If you would.
We can
We
move over a little bit.
You don't need much.
Are they scooting around?
I think they're making room for
Just
him.
get you out of range.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think they got some room there.
Or you can have this one if you want.
No, go ahead.
Let's see, can I borrow this chair, please?
It's not your lead.
Thank you. Got it?
I'll have a couple extras if y'all want to share with them, maybe.
So if you wish that,
Take some out there.
622.
Would have put Alderman Caldwell on the video so he can join this meeting. He's out of state. And then I'm going to mute him.
Okay.
Is that you?
Jim.
I'm putting Alderman Caldwell, who's out of state, on video, and so he can join by video. And then everybody, if you have a question for him, you're welcome to ask him on video. But he's not answering. So he got stuck in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Yes.
Will the handouts be published on the website?
What's that?
The handouts be published on the website?
Possibly. I say yes because, or no, I don't know the answer at the moment. If we can, we will. Yes.
Yes, that's.
If we can, I'll scan them in.
He's not answering.
She can scan them in.
I'll scan in the documents if they're approved from the meeting, to
Okay.
scan them in to put on the website. Then I'll scan them and get them to Pat.
Okay.
And if we're at the club meeting, it's the same presentation that you saw at the club
At
meeting.
the club meeting.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So is that on the website?
It'd be a different website. The city has a
Yeah, we
different
have to
website.
post it on the city website legally for the video thing.
Yeah.
You ready for me to start?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Alderman. I appreciate the opportunity to come out and visit with you tonight. I'm Bob Garrett, and my title is President of Hideaway Lake Inc. This is Cassie Hollinshead and Chris Moore, who are both with our organization. As Cassie pointed out, the presentation we're making tonight is exactly the same one as we did for the club a few weeks ago. I think the official reason we are here, as far as the city business goes, is to ask the city to de-annex 9.15 acres of land along FM 849. And we've passed out this property description here so you know exactly what property we're talking about. And all this is in connection with the projects that we plan inside of Hideaway Lake. To effectuate that plan, there's some horse trading going on between the club and our organization in terms of several different tracts of land, and that's what I'll mainly be talking about. Really, the way this all started was, I would say 2 years ago or so. Cassie, wouldn't you agree that someone from the club or the city met with TxDOT to discuss the Interstate 20 improvement plan? At that meeting, it was stated that eventually the plan was that at the front gate, that frontage road would be westbound only, which that would, of course, cause a confusion in terms of people trying to get on it, in and out, going back to Lindale. So they ask us to start thinking about where it might be possible for us to, give them an option on some property for a driveway between the FM 849 right-of-way and Hideaway Lake. And that's really what started the whole idea. And, going back to 1969 when Mr. Fair first created the club, and he assigned common area, property back to the club for management. That's where we are today. And in that 1969 agreement, certain things were set forth, and then we had another agreement in 1977, 1984, 1994. And then 2006, and some smaller ones in between, but those were the bigger ones. And everything we're talking about today is consistent with the terms of those agreements. In other words, there hadn't been any big change in terms of how memberships work and how the exchanges would work in terms of deeds and so forth. So it's not different in, if you will, the 2025 agreement is very similar to these others, so there's a precedent that's been made. On the next slide, I've got a disclaimer in here, and the reason for that is that while we've generally designed what we want to do, we haven't spent the money to do the actual design work and the engineering because it's quite expensive to do that. And until we had the green light from the club and the city to move forward, it didn't make sense to do it at that time. So there may be some minor changes, but nothing material that we know of. So we'll get into the proposed tracts that we should be transferring to the club. The first one is Andy Waters Park, which is a 2.06 acre tract of land. Everybody here, I'm sure, is very familiar with that. And that's the tract where we've got the boat launch and the irrigation pumps for the golf course. So that would go to the club. The next one is what we call the driving range track. It's a 0.413 acre tract immediately adjacent to the store down there, and that was traded to us, I think, in 2006. Yeah. And so that's been talked about for quite some time, about the need for the club to have that back. The large and the small islands. The large island has been actually platted into 6 different lots. And so that would be transferred as a lot, and the other is a meets and bounds. Lot 1310 is on the third lake, and it's been used by the club in the past for dredging operations. It's in a strategic location, and they've been interested in acquiring that over time. In the 1969, which is basically is an agreement.
Bob, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Just because I'd be, 1310 and here shows 527, is that a,
527 is the street number.
okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. 527.
Oh, the lot number.
Yeah.
Yeah, lot number 13.
Yeah, lot number.
Lot number
1310,
1310,
527 is the address.
527 is the address.
Oh,
right.
okay, thank you. You can trust me.
In the 69 agreement, which is fairly voluminous, it's actually a deed, it's a conveyance of all these common areas to the club when he set the club up. And so there were certain reservations made. And one of them was this and 5 other potential water well sites that were reserved from being conveyed to the club. And that was reserved in the name of Crystal Systems, which of course was our company, and we thought we might need it for future water wells. We never did use them, so it only makes sense if you look at where they're at that they go back to the club. So those 6 parcels would go back to the club in meets and bounds because they're not platted. You can see there's one on Pine View there next to the pickleball courts, and one on Brookside Drive there next to number 4 Green, one in Frontier Park. Okay.
All right.
All right, so the next slide shows a little bit of what we intend to do, and it shows how this property that the city's being asked to de-annex fits into the overall scheme here. There's been questions, and rightfully so, about, well, where is the boundary of the club going to be after all this work is done? And so I think if you look at this map, you see the location of the driveway, which would, at some point in time, at the club's discretion, may or may not become a gate, ingress, egress, whatever. It'll be an 80-foot wide right-of-way. Typical right-of-way out here is 60-foot wide. So this is an 80-foot wide driveway. And then the paved surface will probably be in a 30-foot wide. You know, most of these streets out here are 24 to 27-foot wide paved section. So the idea is we would extend Clubview Drive around, and you'll notice that in one of these exhibits, it's a cul-de-sac, and another exhibit, it probably goes all the way through, because there's been some consternation about what's the best design for the club. And so we simply said we don't really want to be involved in that decision, so we'll do it either way. So we're showing it 2 different ways. But in this particular exhibit, it's an extension from Clubview Drive, and we would build that new street in there, either with a cul-de-sac or tie it back around to Ryder Cup. And then the south right-of-way line of that street will have a fence on it, very similar to the fence, the masonry and wooden fence we have near the front gate now. That would be the boundary line of Hideaway Lake. In previous agreement, 1994, we agreed to do all this with a chain link fence, because that's what most of the boundary fencing is. But in this particular case, there was some concern voiced about, you know, what that would look like. And certainly in this case, we would be in parallel with the interest of the club and the city, because we've got to sell these things once we've built them. So, I mean, from an aesthetic standpoint, that would look much better. So there will be a fence right there, and then the gate would sit right there, so then that would prevent ingress and egress without going through the
So
gate at some point.
Can I just clarify, since you're pointing, is the fence along this line here?
Yes, that's correct, that red.
That
Orange.
little orange line?
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's what I need to, okay, thank
If
you.
I could ask a question,
Yes, sir.
was there an option on I understand the Clubview extension, but you mentioned something about there was possibility of continuing around where it came in Ryder Cup? Okay.
We got the right of way either way. If you look right here, see, that's what that line
Yeah.
does, ties in right there.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how much width there is there, frankly, to work with. That's a tricky, construction job, and it may not be a 60-foot right of way at the end of the day. We may not have that much, but we can still put in a 24, 25-foot pavement section, which would be synonymous with what we've already got right there.
I'm guessing there might be a gate in the wall there.
Well, yes, depending on the timing that the club would want to put the gate in there. It's, that would be where it would go, but,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, and you can see, I believe there's 26 units planned for that. That may tweak one way or the other. There's quite a bit of drainage work and, utility work that's gonna have to go in, and, you know, a lot of design work in there, so we'll have to see exactly at the end of the day how that lays in there.
But this would be Lindale property,
No,
Lindale city limit?
the Lindale city limits would go right up to the fence, so it would be everything south of the fence would be what's in the city of Lindale. In this case,
On this side of the orange line.
yeah, in this case, none of these owners right here would be in the city of Lindale in this case. Now, we'll talk about a case later where that's different on the west side. Okay.
That's assuming Lindell picks it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, assuming y'all turn it loose and they pick it up.
Gotcha.
That's correct.
And is that gonna be commercial development then?
Yes, sir. That's what we planned for with that frontage on 849. And when I say commercial, I'm talking about what we call neighborhood services, which are the businesses designed to service the people in the general area right there. Okay? And I will say that we, you know, in anticipation of this for the last few years, we don't have long-term leases in some of these areas that might change over time. All right. There is the next slide, proposed tracks transferred to fair in order to accommodate the building pad sites that we just talked about. Then we would accept 2.05 acres shown hashed in red ink there, right up against the fairway. And the next page is an aerial photograph of that demonstrates that 2.02 acres is inside the tree line and doesn't affect the existing fairway that's there. It just
So
straightens it out.
that's not currently fair owned?
No, sir, the 2.02 belongs to the club. It was conveyed when we built, in the 94 agreement, when we built the golf course,
Okay.
we conveyed, that was inside the meets and
I
bounds.
always thought that was fair.
Yeah, well, it'd be hard to tell where the line actually is in
Yeah.
the trees.
Yeah.
So that's the 2.05 is the first parcel. And there again, on that next slide, you can see where the 2.05 lies in terms of where we're planning the development, so it's critical. All right, and then beyond that, we have another planned development of condominiums, and I'll use that term. People think about that term differently. In Texas law, real estate law, they only talk about single-family residential, attached and detached. And they talk about condominiums. And the difference is single-family residential, attached and detached are on individual lots. Where in a condominium, you're buying the unit, you're not buying the dirt part of it. The homeowners association for that unit of Hideaway would own just like they do at the front gate. That's how we do it. So you would look at the product at the front gate, and you might say, well, that doesn't look like a condominium to me, it looks like a townhouse. Well, that's a term that we use to sort of describe that type of housing, but it doesn't apply to the law. In Texas, doesn't describe townhouses, it describes condominiums where you have common ground. So that's the product, the same type of product that we're really talking about that you see at the front gate, which was very, we built some 2-story ones, and they didn't go very fast, and that might have been a product of the market itself at that time. But then when we changed our minds and went back to a single floor plan, they were very popular. So we feel like that
Excuse me.
a good demand out here for that type of housing product. So people don't have to keep their yards, the association does that and so forth.
And these are single floor that you're planning?
These are all, and this is on Hideaway Lane, on Unit 1, which is which is right there on Hideaway Lane Central, just north of the club. So if you look at the aerial photograph on that first slide, that property in yellow that houses 6 units or 3 different buildings, that's immediately north and adjacent to the existing parking lot for the clubhouse there. So now there's 2 different parcels that we would be receiving from the club. One is the yellow and one is the orange. And you can see how the orange accommodates a driveway back there. And we're dealing with some really steep topo right there. It's going to be difficult. We need to push that back just a little bit, and that's the reason we need to do that. So our feedback is that doesn't really have much impact on the fairway itself because of its proximity to the tee boxes. I guess I'm not a golfer. All right. Now, I will mention also on this particular project, that's Unit 1, and we already own all those lots up there on the north end of it, and the club actually owns some of those lots. But in order to accommodate this change in the housing type here from single-family residential detached to condominium on these 2 pieces right here, then we'll have to replat Unit 1, and we'll have to change the restrictive covenants on the lots that that are affected, not the lots that aren't. They'll stay the same. So no one's going to be affected that's in Unit 1 except the property that we're going to redevelop. But so part of the agreement is that the club would, since they're lot owners and need to go along, you need a certain percentage of the lot owners to go along with a subdivision change, that the club would be willing to support that effort. Okay. Understanding what we're actually trying to accomplish here.
The club still currently owns these 3 lots there, the ones that are in yellow.
The yellow, that whole
Right.
track, and then that orange track
Right.
there.
This single-family home right here,
Mhm.
have they had any input into that? Because I can imagine that they might not care for that since they've been out there by themselves and they figured this was club-owned and would always be that way. Have they had any comment or have they been consulted at all?
Well, I can't answer that because that's a matter for the club, and we've made this public presentation, and I don't know really whether they support it or not. I'm not aware of anybody that doesn't support
Okay.
it. But I will say, just to reiterate, their lot's not gonna be affected by this. I mean, there's nothing, there's gonna be no improvements or changes on that lot. Now, I will say,
Running right beside them now.
they're gonna have, I'd call it a driveway, really. It's not gonna be a full street section out there. All right. Now, another primary driver for this project in the very beginning is that the club over the years has asked us if there's any way that we can see that they could have sanitary sewer service for the clubhouse and administrative buildings and the club-owned buildings here in the front. And so that's part of what drove the design on this was to get the sanitary sewer system. The only way you could do a condominium development or anything on anything less than a half acre, the state law, if you plat a lot and you have a septic tank on it, it's got to be a half acre lot. So you can't do this type of development unless you have sanitary sewer. So if you look at this map, this is prepared by Brandon Engineering. They've done the preliminary design work on this system. They're also consulting city engineer for the city of Lindale. So it kind of works nice because he's working on both sides to make sure that Lindale gets what they want as well as us. So you can see there's a yellow line coming up. This is our property across the 849 there. So we'll provide ourselves an easement there. And you can see how it crosses 849, ties into the future condominium development there. And then we'll have two sections of sewer line on the street there to serve all the units. And then the pink section goes over and serves the lodge. And then you can see where we're at now in the administrative building. The club at its expense and timing could tie in to that line as well. So the total cost to get this done is $1.2 million, estimated by the engineer. We have agreed with the club that the club will ultimately pay for half of that line since they're using that one section. We'll pay for everything else. But in the beginning, we'll pay for the entire project and then the club would reimburse us as we sell lots with initiation fees for new memberships that come on for the $112,000. So total cost to us $1 million, total cost to the club about $112,000. And that takes care of their needs. And then just thinking back on that, what we just talked about on the development along Hideaway Lane Central, that will have its own little sewer system, a little small lift station that'll tie back in and discharge into the same line back behind the lodge.
And for clarity, this is sewer only, not Lindale water.
No, it's only sewer.
Just sewer,
sanitary
right.
sewer. And the city, we've had preliminary discussions with the leadership of both the club, the city of Hideaway, and the city of Lindale to just talk about this project and see if everybody feels like it's something that can be done. And I think we got a wink and a nod that it's, under proper planning and under certain trade conditions that, everybody can see this as a possibility. So that's when we moved forward with making an application to the club and to the city for the de-annexation.
This pink line going over to the lodge,
Yes, sir.
what would be the timeline on having that completed? Would it correspond to this initial segment
It would be, all of this would probably be put in at the same
at the same time? But that does not include this building and the maintenance cart barn.
That's right, but the agreement with the city of Lindale is they would have the ability to tie in at their discretion.
At the club's discretion, or at Lindale's?
At clubs. Yeah, City of Lindale, they have a policy, and their policy is if you live outside their city and they serve you, then you pay 1.5 times the rate. So everybody, at the end of the day, would pay their own, their own sewer bill. All right. And then, switching over to the west side, and you can see a aerial photograph with an exhibit there. That's less, I mean, that, we envision that, but that's a problem topographically up there. And so that, if there's gonna be change in actual design, this is the one that's gonna absorb most of that. But what we envision here is a different product, maybe as high as 3 stories, looking down on the fairway there. In what year, Cassie, did we do the agreement with the club? Was that the 77 or 84 agreement to build that street?
84.
84. You can see there's a street that comes from Hideaway Central down and up and ties back in, and then we're asking for an easement from the end of Oakwood Street, right along Interstate, the north right-of-way line of Interstate 20, and looping all that in.
About how many properties would that encompass?
Well, if we went as high as 3 stories, and some of them may be higher than others because it just depends on how the market works. You know, if people enjoy the product, and especially older people that don't want, you know, to have to take care of anything, they might really enjoy living there. But, you know, I think we could have as many as, did we say, on this west project, was that 70?
75.
Yeah.
Would these be apartment style? You're not talking about one dwelling 3 stories tall, but.
Well, that's a possibility too, and the reason is because the demand for individual residential elevators has increased a lot, and just because land is such a high commodity now, and lot widths in these big cities have narrowed down, some of them to 25-foot wide, believe it or not. 40-foot, I think 18% of the lots being built in DFW now are 40-foot wide, if you can imagine that. But, so they're having to extend upward, you know, on a lot of these products, and so that's created demand for home elevators, which is, you know, driven technology, and prices have come down. So, to answer your question, that's a possibility now that before you would never think about doing that.
Right.
But the other option would be to do these building units and then have a common elevator for the building, and everyone could use it, no matter what floor they were on. So that's kind of a mix in there. This is from a timing standpoint, this is going to be way later than the other two, we think. This particular property that we have here is inside the city of Lindale ETJ. And at some point in time, we've got a master plan for sewage for this whole track over here, and then our properties across the interstate. And you know, when it makes sense to invest in that infrastructure, we'll pull the trigger on that, and then this would happen. But we envision from a timeline standpoint, we would start off with the Fairway 1 East project, and then move to Hideaway Lane Central, and then this would be farther down the list.
All right.
Now, I will say too, that we don't have enough memberships, we don't own enough memberships right now to accommodate all of these and all the rest of them. We do have plenty enough to do the first two, but we're short on doing this, which would also affect the timing. And the club, see, we have an agreement with the club at such time that they have additional memberships, that we would have access to purchase those. So it could be that we have to buy memberships in the future to accommodate 100% of
To
it.
attach to each one of those?
Yes.
Okay. And, thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. So it says approximately, just clarification, 9.15 acres, and that's just that piece that you've got delineated in here, I think by the color orange or pink, whatever it was.
Yes,
It's just that piece of that property, correct?
It's, yeah, this entire tract.
That's it? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a thing, So that's the 9 acres. I think total tract is 14, something like that.
Yes.
Okay. So that's all you're asking of us.
That's the
That's the
city
city
piece of
part.
this would be the de-annexation that accommodates, because the city of Lindale won't provide us sewer if they're outside the city limits for that commercial property. That's their deal.
Yeah. And they're pretty locked in, as far as you know.
As far as I know.
As far as you know?
they
And where do
are.
we find this exhibit B and D and E? There's an exhibit A here, but
They're
there's
talking
not.
about for the agreement?
Yes.
Where we-
I'm not following exactly where.
For on the 2025 agreement,
This
You
one.
got a
looks-
copy of the actual agreement? Yeah, that's it,
But there
yeah.
wasn't any exhibits with it.
the club has the exhibits, or I can email them to you,
I'd
but
like
they'll
that.
have them.
Okay, I'd like that.
I think we were kind of waiting for the signed copy, so they'll probably be with that, I think, right?
Yeah, they're with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool deal. All right. Any other clarifications from the alderman? Bob, I appreciate you coming.
Well, Thank you for the
Hideaway Lake
opportunity.
Inc. Did I get that right?
Hideaway Lake
Bill
Inc.
Fair.
Well, I got it right.
Yeah.
All right. We're adjourned.
Well, yeah, I've been to three or four of these now, and this one made no sense.
Thank you for everybody for coming.